Okay, what's up, everyone? Welcome to a game called Selene Apoptosis. I believe that's how you say that. This is a visual novel I found on Steam that recently came out. That has multiple endings, apparently. I think the game could take anywhere between like an hour to like 3 hours, apparently, with all the endings and stuff. So, very exciting. It was very intriguing to me, so I decided to try it out. So yeah, let's just get into it. I know nothing about this game other than you find a mysterious girl, and that's it. The sound was driving him crazy. Monotonous, muffled thuds were resonating throughout his head with dull pain. The pain wasn't too strong, nothing unbearable. But that sound. More than anything else, he wanted the sound to just stop. Thud. Nevertheless, the knocking sounds didn't end. He knew it well enough because he himself was their origin. Thud. 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 The noise of his slipper was hitting the rear of his desk over and over again, like a huge fluffy moth frantically ramming against the window glass. He wanted plenty of things. He wanted to pay the rent in time this month, not to displease his landlady again. He wanted to finish the script, at least in draft, because a draft is way better than nothing, something one can work with. And he wanted to sleep. No, not quite that. The problem, a serious one, was that he didn't really want to sleep. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his shut eyes, pressing his eyeballs until dancing pale light appeared. Of course, he took the sleeping pills. When a healthy 8-hour sleep gives way to a not so healthy 5-hour nap, then a 3-hour eye shut back and then goes away entirely, you stop thinking how this will impact your liver. You just want to sleep. You need to sleep, especially if you have already taken an advance payment for your first part of a gig, and the goddamn text won't just write itself. However, if the text could in fact write itself somehow, he would probably lose his job. He didn't have any illusions in this regard. As soon as neural networks get smart enough, he and dozens of other ghostwriters will vanish into morning mist of a new era in literature. He didn't have much of a name or connections, only some skill and a knack to meet the deadlines for the most part. The client was content with this, and he was content with the pay, so everything went well until the pills started failing him. Blam! This time the tick got too strong. His foot jerked and hit the board with very noticeable pain. Seemed like he even heard his toe crack. He muttered a short curse and rolled the chair away from the desk, although he knew, now that his attention was not fixed on the blank text file, the tick should go away all by itself. It's funny how the consciousness is detached from the body. He often thought about it, especially while having insomnia. It's like you're working as a team, but your partner starts pulling something. You seem to have common goals, but when all the hell breaks loose, you are suddenly left alone with it, and your partner is more interested in watching the fire than fighting it. In the end, you have no idea what's on his mind. Well, at least there won't be any more knocking. Good. A small window at the far side of the room flashed white for a moment. A storm? Now that he thought about it, the day was hot. The vicious, stagnant air still filled the room. This, and the barely audible squeak of an overheated network filter, he became sensitive to such things when he couldn't sleep for a long time, made the entire room seem to vibrate a little. Like a cocoon that's about to hatch. Actually, that did sound like a good line. He rolled back to the table and was about to write that thought down, but paused over the keyboard. He remembered the individual words and the general idea, but the sentence had already slipped away. This time, the white light seemed to fill the entire room. Then a thunder followed, resembling a low gut roar of something large and famished. Good Lord. He called to God way too often for someone who never goes to church. Just a habit he inherited from his mother. A furious patter of raindrops pounded on his window. There's no way he could work like this, not now. But maybe it's for the best. Since he was a little boy, he slept well during the storms, had to seize the moment. He groped for a packer of sleeping pills. It's nice to have your working tools at hand. Popped the pills into his mouth and opened the window to hear the steady patter of the rain. Then he went to bed and collapsed on top of the bed sheets, his clothes still on. He could tell by the sound of the water had flooded the windowsill and was trickling down to the floor. He decided that was a small price to pay. He felt a pleasant chill of cloth beneath his cheek. The wavering haze was gradually fading from the room, yet the sleep did not come. He tried to take off his shoes, change position, take a pillow, cover himself, throw the pillow away to the other side of the room. Nothing helped. He just laid there with his eyes closed, and though his closed eyelids felt heavy, he knew it was an illusion. All in vain. He's not sleeping. He can't sleep. Thud. At first he thought he was imagining things. Thud. 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 Sometimes the knocking paused, but it never stopped completely. The sound came from below, from the first floor. Someone was banging insistently on the door, and with each thud he could feel the rage building up like a tight knot of pain around his stomach. He is trying to sleep. Is it really that hard to just leave a man alone? At least at night, at least in the house that he pays for, specifically so that nobody would bother him. He opened his eyes, easy, just as he thought, sprang to his feet and ran down the stairs. Something was boiling inside of him. Halfway to the door, he took a turn to the cupboard and pulled out an old baseball bat. He wasn't likely to actually use it. He asked himself if he would, as he reached for the door handle. No, he certainly wouldn't, but he's angry, and he wants the night guest to learn it. What the hell? The rain was still pouring, or rather, it was actually getting stronger. As his mother would say, and the floodgates of heaven tore open. His mother used to say a lot of things. That was on the list of the reasons why he had to rent this overpriced house where anyone could start banging the door in the middle of the night. A cat, for example. What the hell? He said it again, this time aloud. She has a tail. Oh, those are ears, okay. A cat was standing on his porch. She looked like a purebred British short hair. British short hair in all respects, except for the color. Aside from the smoky gray head, it seemed as if she was dropped into a vat of white paint, while her lower part was dipped into a black one. Wet fur clung to her small, rather skinny body, dripping with water. The cat could have probably slipped into the house as soon as the door opened, but instead she froze, as if waiting for the host to say something. Let her. Should we refuse? What if we refuse? Let her in? I mean, it's just a cat, right? Nah, you know what? I'm trying to sleep. Refuse. It will be raining again soon. Refuse. It will be raining again soon. It won't let me refuse? No, I'm gonna keep doing this. It's gonna let me. Okay. I guess it won't let me here. Okay, I have to let her in. Let her in. It was cold outside, much colder than one might think. He didn't feel angry anymore. All right, come in. He stepped aside, freeing the doorway. The cat didn't move. So? You don't want to, huh? He was about to say, fine then. Close the door, go back to the second floor, and lie in a suffocating half-sleep until morning. But he finally realized what was wrong. The bat. He threw it away, aiming for the sofa, but missed. The bat clattered on the floorboards. The cat followed it into the darkness with her round yellow eyes. The sounds didn't frighten her. He sighed. I won't hurt you. Come in if you want. The cat raised her eyes at him. For the first time, he actually saw, and couldn't help admiring, how big and yellow they were. The cat's pupils were also large and incredibly round, like 2 full moons in an eclipse. Just as he was about to close the door for the second time, The cat murmured something and fluttered into the house, butting him with her wet head as she passed by. He smiled. Strictly speaking, at this very moment, his line had ended. If the landlady found out, and he was sure she would, he'd have to look for a new place to live. There are plenty of lonely, bored seniors in the neighborhood, he thought. And they only have two hobbies, observing and reporting. The subject and the recipient aren't that important. Well, it's fine. Maybe he'd leave the suburbs. Maybe he'd move to an apartment, since him getting privacy didn't work out anyway. The rain was getting stronger still. He closed the door. The cat explored the house with cautious curiosity, stopping by different objects as if trying to understand their purposes. Watching that was amusing, so amusing he even forgot about the stain. When he remembered, it had already spread out, a dark spot of water in the place where the cat clung to him. He pulled the wet cloth away from his body and stared at it blankly for a moment, then almost groaned aloud. The cat was soaked, so she probably got a lot of dirt in the house. He decided not to turn on the light. He had enough disappointment for the night. Instead, he went to get a towel. "All right, come here." The cat turned her head to the voice and froze in place. She was examining the TV, a lifeless black mirror of plasma panel and a lacquer frame that he haven't even touched since moving in. In the reflection, the cat herself looked black. She gave him a long, appraising look, and then, with a sudden eagerness, trotted towards him, deftly avoiding the obstacles. He was surprised. Maybe the cat decided he was more interesting than the TV, or maybe she acted out of respect for her host's will. Anyway, he felt grateful. Finally, someone he can actually negotiate with. So is it normal for a cat to be like a person in this world, or like what's going on? Suddenly, he thought how nice it would be to crawl under the blanket with a warm ball of fur. Or is his mind playing tricks because he literally hasn't been able to sleep and your brain starts getting all willy-nilly when you don't sleep? It would surely have helped him to fall asleep. As a child, he had a cat, gray, huge, brash, immensely ugly, and equally beloved. He often fell asleep hugging him. The cat's name was Timo, and he faded into a June night many years ago. The cat bumped her wet head against him once more. He thought the cats usually shake off the water themselves. Usually, but perhaps not always. "Hey, easy there, you're all wet." The cat looked up at him with her moon-shaped eyes and murmured something again. "Do something about it then." He smiled and got to work. He had to squeeze the fur thoroughly, so the towel soon turned into a wet rag. Should he? Bathe the cat? It doesn't matter. I guess we'll pop a save here. Bathe the cat. That won't do. I'll give you a bath. Cats don't like baths, do they? As he carried her to the bathroom, the cat stayed still in his arms, a warm and incredibly light body pressed against his chest. He was expecting the cat to bring out the claws at any moment. Maybe as he opens the door. Maybe as he opens the door now. Or as he turns the light on. Maybe this time. But nothing happened. The cat glanced around the new room and looked at him again with her intelligent, almost human-like gaze. Not a single muscle in her small body moved. She was curious, and that's about it. She trusts me. He was about to ask her if she knows where they were and what was going to happen next, but that was just too much. So, it shouldn't be very difficult. The two of us can manage this. What do you think? He read somewhere a cat should get used to the new surroundings before bathing. Fear is born out of the unknown, and in the regard, people haven't gone too far from cats. New scents, unfamiliar objects, and the splashing of water. These are just shadows under the bed that will fall back if you get a better look at them. He carefully put the cat on the floor. She looked around the room again and returned her questioning eyes to him. It seemed like she got comfortable enough. He turned on the water in the shower and felt a gentle touch. The cat was already loitering around his feet. She was curious indeed. The shower isn't so bad as compared to the rain, is it? The joke came out a little awkward. He felt embarrassed, and he didn't know why. That is literally a naked woman. Like, am I the only one that's normal here? Like, this is clearly a woman cat. So this is a mirror, huh? Is it done? Do I need to click? Oh. She's just a cat. Maybe it was because of how the water glistened on her skin, or how she was looking at him from under half-lowered lashes. She was actually watching. He met her eyes, and each time felt shame burn through him, but the shame was thick and sweet. He was a little dizzy. His hand slid over her smooth, wet skin, and each time he would ask himself, was it really necessary? Then he would feel her eyes on him, and his thoughts would melt. Running down her thighs was the lather, disappearing between her neat toes. The bathroom shimmered, molten, bright, pulsating with light or darkness. He felt he was losing his balance, and pulled his head away, but she returned and pressed it to the wet, hot skin covered in a soapy veil. She guided it. Cat person. Got an achievement. He couldn't remember how he ended up in the living room again. The cat was napping peacefully in his arms. He absently ran his hand down the cat's wet back, tracing the bumps of her spine with his fingers. I should get you some food. Let me see what I have. He got up, with just a tad bit difficulty, nothing he couldn't handle. Still, his body felt unusually heavy and unwieldy. He had to give that cat something to eat. He will lie down afterwards and then, hell, maybe he'll even fall asleep. Maybe he should have gotten a cat from much earlier. A ball of fur with a pair of moon eyes and a velvety voice that you can always negotiate with. And that's about it. That's kind of funny. He could have avoided all that suffering if only he had a cat. You think so, my dude? I don't know. There's something weird about this experience. The kitchen blurred before his eyes. He got to the refrigerator and opened it, squinting from the light and leaning on the door way harder than he was supposed to. If the landlady was around at the time, she would have told him exactly so. Don't lean on the door. After all, this is her house and her refrigerator, and everything should be neat and tidy in case she has to move new tenants in. Perhaps the landlady would have even warned him about the milk. The milk itself is completely harmless, unless, of course, you are allergic to lactose. But there's a special kind of lactose-free milk, right? What matters is the bottle. Bottles, much like cats, can vary greatly, but this particular one was made of glass. If only the landlady was here, she would have probably have told him not to touch the bottle, because he's falling on the floor, and the bottle might break, and then the milk will spill, and he'll have nothing to feed the nice cat he found. Or rather, it was her who found him, and very timely because he was lying on the floor. He had been lying on there for some time. It would have been lying still if he hadn't felt the light touch of something hot and rough on his cheek. It was almost like a dream, although, of course, comparing sleep with fainting isn't quite correct, no matter how you look at it. The floor beneath him was surprisingly hard, cold, and wet. He felt all of those three qualities clearly and was afraid to imagine what would happen if he tried to move. But he had to move, one way or another. At least to see what's up, because something hot and rough was still sliding up his cheek, gradually creeping up to his ear. He felt a warm breath and then a cautious bite. Ouch! He jumped on the spot. A shadow rushed to the side and then calmly began to lap milk from the puddle. This is not a cat. I mean, I guess that is a tail, and those are like cat legs, and she has cat ears. But her upper body, like her thighs and everything else, is human-like. She has a collar on too, though. The cat. What are you doing? The cat looked at him briefly and licked her lips.
そんなに大げさにしなくてもいいじゃない。猫でもないのに、そんな状態で寝転んでるなんてね。それにミルク漬けになってるし。
Well, you're right. I let you down and had to get my punishment. I let myself down too. Good Lord, now there's cleaning to do until the next Advent, like his mother would have said. I'll go get a rag. Stay here and don't ruin what's left of the kitchen while I'm gone. The cat watched him go with a skeptical look. By the way, sorry if I'm not reading, like...
これって全部私のせいじゃなくて自分がやったことなんじゃない？
I thought it would be cool to play the game in the default language, which is Japanese. So, sorry that I'm not reading any of the text, yeah. When he returned with the bucket, the cat was gone. The Theater of presents How to Bake Blank. In the kitchen, something exciting is happening. You will need a blade. Did you take the pills? Scratch out the entrails. The Egyptians widely used honey for embalming and preserving food. Later, their recipes were adopted by the Greeks. Also, add a teaspoon of apricot jam, a walnut, and a little cinnamon. Before baking, put a teaspoon of butter on top of... Microwave for 5 to 7 minutes at full power. Don't listen to the scream. That was a face. That was literally a head. Wait, that's blood. Bon appetit. What is going on? My boy's tripping right now. The next time he saw her was in a few days, or maybe in a week. He always had a bad sense of time, especially when he is immersed in his work. He still couldn't sleep, but at least he was making some progress with the script. It was a narrative game project, as the customer called it, but actually meant do whatever you have to finish it on time, else forget about the payment. And so he did, although he was resentful, and that got in a way a lot. The reason of those feelings was the cat. He knew how stupid that was, but he couldn't help it. He forgave her for the bite almost immediately. That wasn't the thing. He was bitter about how the cat ran away, despite him trying his best to take care of her. She was nowhere to be found in the house, so he immediately thought about an open window or the second floor. Maybe he should have closed it. He dwelled on the thought for a while. He even approached the window at some point, but in the end, he decided not to do anything about it. He was hoping, and there was no shame in that. It's not the same as you turn up 10 and start eyeing girls. The cat would come back. And she did. He had just settled himself on a sofa with some book. Some was a word, as he couldn't remember a thing from the cover, even though he read the title several times. The symbols were floating before his eyes, and of course he couldn't make out a word. No wonder, considering he didn't sleep at all. When you think about it, it was surprising he could write it in this state. Either way, he was barely following the book, so he wasn't upset at all when a fluffy head butted his hand. Hey, I'm trying to read here.
でも、内容は頭に入ってないみたいじゃない？
You're not wrong.
なんでもいいけど。
I guess it doesn't really matter that much.
ここちょっと書いて。
Oh, she wants head scratches. Head pets. He complied. You were absent for so long. I thought you won't be back.
なら、なんで2階の窓を閉めなかったのよ。
Well, you see, there's a big difference between expectations and hopes. He had learned that well. Why did you leave? Did I do anything wrong? The cat stayed silent. Well, pop another save. No reason to be bitter, right? Happiness. Alright, it doesn't matter that much. I'm happy to have you back. After all, there was no point in his grudge from the start. Nobody gains anything by holding on to the small grudges and staying blind to what they really feel. He wouldn't have won anything. It's not a damn lottery. The cat rubbed against his arm again. He put the book down and gently placed her on his lap. The locket around her neck, unexpectedly cold, touched his skin. Then he got a hunch. Did you go home?
家なんかないわよ。
Oh, okay, well, so she's a stray cat. Well, someone must be caring about you if they put the collar on.
ただの首輪って場合だってあるわよ。
What does that mean, though? Collar's just a collar.
知らなかった。
This time, it was him who stayed silent. The cat buried her head in his stomach. Want me to take it off?
別に。
Oh, okay.
私のだし。
So it's like an accessory for her at this point.
それに、こうしといた方が、今後何かと都合がいいかもしれないし。
Okay. He nodded because, if you think about it, that really was a reasonable choice. The cat's fur was thick and smooth, very pleasant to the touch. He wanted to bury his face in it, find out what it smelled like, what she smells like. Do you have a name?
もちろん。みんな
Then
あ
what
る
is
で
it?
しょ
Everything has a name. What is it then? And what's yours? The cat looked at him carefully with her bright yellow eyes as if saying, take a guess. But she didn't actually say anything. On her locket there was a small engraving, a crescent moon that was dimly shining in the pale light coming out of the window. Selene? The cat looked up at him, and her pupils flickered into 2 full moons in an eclipse. Then she rubbed against his arm one last time, and stood up stretching, arching her back.
2階の窓は閉めないでね。
Okay, I'll keep it open, just for you, girl. I won't. She left, but the name stayed with him, in and around the house. Selene. So hummed the glass, white in the moonlight. So whispered the long shadows of the branches outside the window. Focus on the name doesn't matter. Focus on the name. What is Selene? For some reason, the question bothered him. He vaguely remembered it had something to do with the mythology. Such things never really caught his interest, but fortunately, he knew someone he could turn to. On TV? Going to TV, huh? Something changed? Hope, okay. Ethan. You know I can't stand them. And you know it's me who will have to take care of it after all. You're basically living in the office. Ethan never liked cats. And the dogs too. Not much of a difference. Okay, wait, what's this? Hold on, before I continue. Oh, this is the log, okay. He didn't like the very idea of keeping a predator at home, even a small one. He couldn't quite explain why. Hope sighed. She closed the tab with the Cattery's website, then slapped her husband lightly on the shoulder. Even so, the faces of the Persian cats, deeply depressed and equally concave, still lingered before his mind's eye. Ethan held up his hand in a conciliatory gesture. He knew it wasn't over yet. Hope is not the one to give in this easy. She never was, and for him, there was something incredibly appealing about it. Come to think of it, quite possible it'll be him who copulates in the end. In a relationship, you always have to sacrifice something. In 4.5 years, or even 5, according to Hope, He had learned this quite well. Suddenly, Hope frowned, looking at the screen.
メールが来たみたい。よく読めないけど。
Can't read it. What do you mean you can't read it?
仕事用のメールボックスだわ。
A work mailbox? Let me see. I hope I got a new project. The Middle Ages are fine and all, but they're about to start pouring out of my ears. Ethan reached for his laptop, but Hope grabbed it and dodged him.
契約の件は日曜日に話しましょうよ。
Oh, so she doesn't want to talk about work right now.
仕事ばっかりで遊ぶ時間がないのはどっちかしら？
I mean, you make a good point. Well, such are the benefits of freelance. Come on, give it back. Hope giggled and leaned over the armrest hanging over the floor. Hope's defenses withstood several more attacks. Each time Ethan thought the laptop would definitely hit the floor. Then she gave Ethan a peck on the cheek and slid off the couch. The laptop returned to its owner.
はいはい諦めたよ。
Thank you. That's all I wanted, Hope. That's all I wanted. Oh, wait, she didn't read this. I mean, what if they'll actually give you a new contract, but on the same old Middle Ages? Now, that would be a twist. Yeah, a hilarious one. But there was nothing about the Middle Ages in the letter, not a mention of the payment, too. Ethan read it several times. Leaving the formalities aside, there was but one question in the letter. Ethan, or rather the part of him that was responsible for finding the accurate answers, got immediately engaged by the wording. What is Selene? Ethan rolled the question around in his mouth as if tasting it. At a glance, the answer was simple. Ethan's real passion was the early Renaissance, but he was a history consultant after all. At least he liked to think of himself that way. The agency was paying him for a reason. He needed no research to tell that Selene was the goddess of the moon in the ancient Greece. The question, however, seemed to be way more intricate in its nature, or at least that's what Ethan wanted to think, because the Middle Ages were actually about to start pouring out of his ears. He was always diving into his work completely, and living in an age where madness, curse, and death are contagious is an exhausting trial. He needed some distraction. Of course, he had a part-time job with those online courses, but the platform where he lectured wasn't planning anything new just yet. All in all, the quest looked interesting, if not for one small matter: the payment, or rather, the lack thereof. Ethan hesitated. The sender's name seemed familiar. He searched the email address and found out they already worked together on a couple of texts. Both times, his efforts were duly paid for by the agency. Ethan never worked for free. It wasn't his principle, but rather a matter of necessity. The problem here was the fact that Ethan loved what he was doing too much, and if you're trying to make money from what you love, that's a slippery slope. A free service there, an unpaid consultation here, and then you go back to splitting the sheep protectors 8 hours a day, watching your dreams rust away. Besides, Ethan didn't want to let Hope down. Of course, she supported him when he decided to go freelance, but Ethan never wanted to take advantage of that. No, that won't do. He works only under contract and does not give free consultations. Just as he was about to give that as a response, Hope's fair head popped from behind the door.
来ないの？
Oh, we're going out? Yeah, sure, I'm coming. On the walk, Hope brought up the cat thing a few more times. Ethan protested absently. His thoughts went back to the letter again and again, to that question. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to find the answer. It was no longer a matter of helping an acquaintance whose name Ethan immediately forgot. No, it was Ethan himself who needed a little help with distraction and an answer. That was a weird thing to do, but Ethan waited until Hope was fast asleep. Only then did he sneak over to his laptop to write a response. Certainly, he had no real answer as of yet. He threw in a few dozen polite words, the general meaning of which was he had taken up the case. Then he clicked send. When Ethan returned to bed, Hope was still breathing slow and deep. He listened to her breath for a while, trying not to think that he had broken his own rule. After all, he really needed a distraction. No matter the strength of your affection, sooner or later you will want to take a break. It was another thing he had learned over the past 4.5 years. If Ethan had to point out when things started to be off, he would say it was on Saturday. That is, about a week after the first letter. But this, of course, wouldn't be accurate. Those weird things started happening almost immediately after he pressed the send button. I think I'm losing my voice. The first night he saw a room in his dreams. What's this? A red couch? A chipped white ceiling and a similarly rough walls lit the fluorescent lamps. Ethan couldn't see the lamps themselves, but he recognized the cold, shimmering light. They often used those lamps in the offices. The light filled the room to the brim. Ethan thought it was about to burst, and then the light would splash all over the room, just like the juice from a squished tomato. Apart from the walls and the light, the room had a red sofa. The sofa stood just a bit aside from the center, not too large, quite faded, flooded with shimmering white light. This light made the sofa seem to be trembling a little, and the room trembled with it. Suddenly, Ethan thought it would be way better if the sofa was standing right in the middle. Then he felt something on his temple, a touch. He had to flinch, scream, stumble to the side, yet he couldn't. He was paralyzed. Only his eyes could move, and they desperately tried to reach beyond his field of vision, where something was touching his temple. Ethan felt a faint flow of air, as if someone was whispering in his ear. He did hear the whisper, just one word. Ethan no longer remembered what the word was when he jumped up in his bed, gasping for air. Hope muttered something in her sleep and turned to the other side. It took a long time to get back to sleep, but by morning, Ethan did pass out, and when he woke up, the dream wiped out of his mind pretty quick. The task at hand interested him much more than some muck spilling out of his subconscious. He was thinking about the task while he was chewing on the morning toast, driving to the bank, and all the way back. It was just like a Christmas present waiting for its time in the closet. The more you tell yourself you shouldn't think about it, the more you do. At home, Ethan tried to stick to his plan, working on the project he was paid for, but ended up sitting over a single report for several hours. He couldn't squeeze out a letter. To hell with it. After all, he was almost done with his current project. It wouldn't be much of a problem if he presented the result a bit later on, wouldn't it? Besides, it was really time for him to get a breather. One can't be spending so much time in a world where madness, curses, and death are contagious. To hell with it, Ethan thought as he closed the files on the project he was paid for. There was plenty of information, but Ethan knew he would not get an answer right away. The accurate answer, just like the precious pearls, lay at great depths. He had to go down to the very bottom. Ethan was not afraid. He had done it many times. His counterpart might have to wait for a week or so, but Ethan knew he'll manage to crack the riddle. What's going on? Is he having a weird moment now, too? What he didn't know is what else could be found at those great depths. And at some point in this investigation, things started happening. He started hearing sparse phrases, even though he never turned on TV or radio, and Hope wasn't even at home. When he sat in front of the screen, once again trying to connect the dots in his research, he could feel someone looking at the back of his head. When he turned around, of course, there was no one in the room. Eventually, he taught himself not to turn around. He just got angry, pushing fingers into his temple when the familiar feeling appeared again. So he's getting watched by something ever since we emailed him. He started losing things. Or rather, things would disappear and then appear in the strangest of places. One day he found his pencil in the freezer, stuck in a minced meat briquette. Even when the briquette melted down, he couldn't pull the whole pencil out. All Ethan got was a bloody stump. What's going on? At this point, he could stop and think of it, but got distracted by the coffee maker and mindlessly shoved the stump into the trash bin. Weird. There was something wrong with the shadows, too. They became sharper, thicker, and deeper, and it was the case in the whole apartment. Sometimes they moved. Of course, Ethan only felt like they were moving. It couldn't have been any other way. Ethan didn't really pay attention to any of this, just like he did with that dream he had. All of that seemed very familiar, as he already experienced similar things during the periods of intense work, when his nervous system was exhausted by the workload. There always was a rational explanation, the stress, or those new, much more environmentally friendly light bulbs that Hope had installed all around the apartment. Besides, it's so easy to dismiss this sort of things when you're deeply invested into something, and this question really got Ethan involved. Every time he seemed to get it right, his thought went off. Like he was climbing a rock, but a safe ledge suddenly turned slippery, and the next thing he knew, he's at the bottom again. He never faced anything like that during his previous research. There were times he had to spend weeks or months looking for the right answers. Those were the tricky cases, but at least he could always tell how his research is progressing. This time, he was stumbling in his tracks without knowing why, and that was all he could tell. I see. The week was over, but he still had nothing to send back to his contact. In his reply, Ethan asked a couple of questions. Not that he was really interested, just as a courtesy. And that's how their surprisingly exciting email conversation started. With this, Ethan's contact grew to be something more, something of a friend maybe. He never asked how Ethan's work was progressing. This was the question Ethan asked himself, and the answer was never good for him. Of course, he started sleeping badly. Falling asleep was easy, but he woke up many times during the night, sometimes in a cold sweat. Ethan could not remember his dreams. That night, he woke up about 3 or 4 times. At first, Ethan was lucky enough to fall asleep almost immediately after he woke up. But at some point, his eyes got open again. This time, the sleep wouldn't come. Ethan felt terribly thirsty. He found no slippers on the usual spot. The noise could wake up Hope, so he decided not to look for them, and only regretted it when approaching the kitchen. The floor was bloody cold. So cold that Ethan unconsciously looked down. Is that a shadow of a cat woman? I would assume. And when he was looking up again, he saw a shadow. No doubt the shadow belonged to a woman. A naked woman. Ethan could clearly see the points of her nipples as the shadow turned around. No wonder, it's freezing cold here. The shadow moved slowly along the wall, floating in a rectangular pool filled with moonlight. She was dancing. She was dancing, and the humming silence in Ethan's ears was her music. Ethan was watching her, unable to move. He was paralyzed, just like then in his dream. But he did not remember it. In that moment, he didn't remember anything at all, couldn't think about anything at all. What is this? He felt an itch in his eye, and the momentary urge to blink. For a fraction of a second, he could only see the thick, vicious darkness, and when he opened his eyes again, there was no shadow anymore. The glowing rectangle shifted its place and now lay on the kitchen floor at Ethan's feet. He could see the cold white light flowing in the seams between the tiles on the floor. For some reason, he took a deep breath and then stepped forward into the rectangular light. Nothing happened. And what was supposed to happen? What did he really see? Did he really see anything? He walked deeper into the room, much bolder, grabbed the decanter, and started to drink in big, greedy sips. Water steamed down his chin and chest, hitting the tiles on the floor, and poured into the grooves of the seams. No, that wasn't a delusion. The kitchen was completely empty, and the floor felt warm again, and yet it wasn't a delusion. And all of this was begging for a rational explanation. That's why Ethan decided he should talk to Hope in the morning. Something changed. What does that mean? Devil is made of clay and tomato soup, just like any human being. Huh? Dear. Interview with devil. With the devil? It's getting late and then I come. She serves the tomato soup. She used to serve other things, but not anymore. I'm in the tomato soup. They both eat tomato soup. That's how I get in. What am I reading? Very confused right now. The Midnight TV, Channel 8 maintenance talk show, interview with the devil. Is this like actually like a choice? So I've watched these, yeah? Yeah, okay, I've watched these, yeah. So this is just like an optional thing, right? Did you give anyone the apartment keys? You know, by chance? Hope froze with a cup at her lips and blinked several times. Maybe you've left someone in. Okay, maybe not. Oh, nothing really. I feel like someone is visiting our place. Exactly what I said. It's been a while since I started noticing random things vanish, and yesterday Hope frowned. She looked at Ethan as if a toad had just popped out of his mouth. I guess I'll save here. I wonder if there's like a flow chart for this, like after you finish. Say it bluntly. I saw someone in our kitchen last night. Some girl. The deep line on Hope's forehead disappeared. She leaned back in her chair and laughed, throwing her head back. It's not a show. On God, she stole my cupcakes? Wait a minute. Huh? I see, so she's been eating cupcakes at night? So she doesn't believe what we said. 3 days? Hope glanced at Ethan, expecting him to start laughing too, yet he still looked very serious. She noticed for the first time that the whites of his eyes were pinkish and full of broken capillaries. Her smile slowly faded. Come on, maybe you left the keys unattended somewhere? So we're losing our shit right now. You sure none of your colleagues would play a joke on us? Hope pulled her chair closer to Ethan and took his hand. A break, yeah. Wait, what does that mean? One psycho is enough for our family. What does that mean? Is she the psycho? Ethan suddenly felt like a total idiot. A tired, total idiot. A naked girl in their kitchen? Yeah, sure. He probably overworked to the point he started being delirious at times. Maybe even walked in his sleep. He squeezed Hope's fingers lightly. I promise. Sorry, I'm a moron. I probably stopped seeing the difference between dream and reality. Laura? No, a shrink is the last thing I need right now. My bad. Sure, but that'd be just too cruel. What I need is to finish that project. After that, all the gears in my head will fall into place. I give you my word.
そんなことを言わないで。本格的な治療はいらないと思うけど、専門家に相談したら少しは楽になるかもしれないじゃない？
So just talking through it? At least, I shouldn't have pressed you on it. I get that you have enough problems of your own right now. How's it going in your new position? Hope rested her head on his shoulder and shrugged.
まだクビになってないわよ。
Well, that is one way of describing your new position.
まだ慣れてもいないけどね。
That's okay. You'll get it soon.
新しい仕事は面白いけど、本来求められてるより10倍遅く働いてるような気がするの。
Well, like I said, it's a new position. It's okay.
だから月末には残業が多くなるかも。
Ethan kissed her forehead, closed his eyes, and squeezed the bridge of her nose. Well, I'm not a head of a department as of you yet, but I seem to have the same stuff on my plate. Just how do you manage not to pester me with stupid questions?
夜にはカップケーキを食べることにするわ。
Okay. I mean, yeah.
いい
She eats
さんも
cupcakes
そう
tonight.
したら？
Maybe I will. Hope poked Ethan's cheek a couple of times with her finger.
とにかく心配しないで。
I will try my
鍵を
best.
誰にも渡したりしないから。
Oh, she let a stray cat in here.
まあ、ずっと二人でやってきたから。もしかしたら。
A cat? What cat? Hope sighed and pulled away.
とにかく働きすぎたり考えすぎたりしないで。
So she let a cat in here without telling me.
少なくと
Okay.
も私にはいつでも何でも話して。
Was it like a week ago?
心配しないで。猫はいないわ。
Hope we've talked this over already.
どういう意味？何かまずいことでも言ったかしら？
Oh, we're going there? Damn it, Hope, this is my apartment and
今から一人でしょ？
And you're staying here alone now. Oh. Hope finished her tea in a couple of gulps.
行ってくるわ。
She stopped at the door, not turning around.
あの猫、かわいそうだったな。
I feel like a douche.
痩せてたし。私もかわいそうだけど、寂しいな。本当に寂しい。
This time, Ethan felt like an angry idiot. He got up from the table and reached for Hope. Hope,
泣きそうだから、もう本当に時間がないから行かなきゃ。
Oof.
後でね。
Okay, see you tonight. See you tonight. He didn't know what else to say, so he followed Hope into the hall like a silent shadow. He thought the right words would come to him, but the entrance door closed and he remained silent. Ethan sighed. He regretted his decision to talk about the night episode. He regretted how the talk turned out. He felt sorry for himself and for Hope. And after all, Ethan was well aware of that. He really didn't spend enough time with her. At first because of the agency project, now because of the question to which he still could not find an answer. It was time to end this. He's going to make some coffee, then he'll open the laptop and write up some answer. It won't be an accurate one, but it's really time to finish that work marathon. After all, he doesn't even get paid for his time. Ethan nodded to the closed door and turned around ready to execute the plan. That's when he saw her. Just for a split second, but damn it, he saw her. A black-haired girl flashed in the doorway of one of the rooms. Not even flashed, but drifted. Like Ethan's mouth went dry. Shadow? Of course, there was no one in the room. This has gone too far. Ethan had gone too far, but he couldn't turn back, even though he was going to. He didn't even make any coffee. He wanted to get rid of that question, get a good night's sleep, and forget about the whole thing. Forget about the shadow that danced in his kitchen. Forget about the pale silhouette that wandered through his apartment. Forget that at this very moment someone was looking at the back of his head, and that look makes his skin feel as cold as the kitchen floor last night, and the hairs, one by one, stand on end. Ethan clenched his teeth, not with anger, but with some new emotion he couldn't name. The blood hummed in his ears, louder and louder. It will all be over after he writes the letter. It will be over. He opened his laptop. His hands were shaking a little and was putting his fingers over the keyboard when his cell phone rang. Ethan flinched. He stared blankly for a few seconds, and the vibrating rectangle of glass and plastic crawled across the table. Do not answer. Don't do it. Suddenly, he grabbed the phone and pushed the accept button. Ethan himself didn't know how that happened. He just did it, that's all. The phone pressed tight against his ear. He waited for a hoarse, gurgling voice to call his name and tell him to look behind. Or what is supposed to happen in cases like this. Ethan? Hope?
私以外誰がいるのよ。ごめんね。今すごく不安でバカなこと言っちゃうかも。
No, it's okay. It's good. It's my fault for not realizing it was you. Yeah, I'm uneasy too. And that was completely true.
今邪魔しちゃってるよね。
No, of course not. Oh, he said it? Oh, okay. You are, and I'm very happy about that. Go on, please.
よかった。
Okay, cool.
朝ごはんの時ごめんね。
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm being awful.
私たち疲れてるからもう喧嘩はしないようにしよう。
I mean, I don't want to fight with you either. Great idea.
今夜どこか行く？
You want to go out
買い
tonight?
物とか。
Oh, okay, just groceries, okay.
どう？
Counts as going out if you ask
部
me.
屋にじっ
True.
としていると変になっちゃうわ。
Oh, so that's what's driving me nuts. Should go out for zucchini more
行
often.
くってことね。
So what do you say? Okay, we're going to buy all the zucchini for tonight. Hope laughed. Ethan suddenly realized that the blood wasn't buzzing in his ears. No one was looking at the back of his head, and if he turned around, he would only see Hope's socks that she'd left on the chair again. Hope?
Eh?
I love you.
私も。
Hmm.
じゃあ夜にね。
See you later. After finishing the call, he turned around. The socks were resting peacefully on the chair, which meant everything was okay. He went back to the mail and only then noticed several new letters. 2 of them were from his counterpart. Ethan hesitated. He had already decided his course of action concerning the question, so there was no harm in taking a look. He won't feel any guilt. After all, he had already done far more than he should have. Of course, he is a lifesaver for those wanting to sell books mentioning historical accuracy, but having no intention to pay for it properly. And so what? He doesn't have to do a perfect job for free. Hell, he doesn't even work for free. That's what Ethan thought. Then he opened the 2 letters he got and changed his highly reasonable decision. His counterpart was asking how soon he would get an answer. So, this happened, after all. The tone was very polite and apologetic. He wasn't expecting anything, but he really, really needed the help of someone competent. According to the emails, he wasn't doing very well. The poor man had been suffering from insomnia for an insane amount of time, and it seems that he, too, began imagining things. It was as if Ethan saw himself from the outside. He suddenly felt very sorry for his acquaintance. Of course, he had begun to feel sorry for him earlier, but now Ethan felt a sharp, bitter pity. He realized that if he helps his acquaintance, he will help himself, but if he steps back now, what is the value of a specialist who is afraid of a little challenge? As Hope once said, the career ladder is made of thorn. Of course, he no longer worked in an office, but professional growth requires twice as much effort if you're self-employed. And besides, Ethan had Hope. Hope, who never gives in so easily and forgets her socks on the chair. Hope, who loves him very much. Hope, who will go to the store with him tonight, because being cooped up like that can drive one crazy. This must be what was happening to his acquaintance right now. Ethan had to help him. No, not because of money, but because he could, and because it was the right thing to do. They will both finish their projects, and then they will have a good rest. They might even go out for a glass of beer tonight, so Ethan thought and got back to the question with the newfound strength. The pages of the books did not rustle in the far corner of the room. The shadows weren't wandering in the corridor, and certainly no one looked at the back of his head until the evening. And in the evening, Hope came back. Hope looked up from the magazine and leaned over the armrest.
代理店から電話があった。
Ethan just got back from the shower. He froze in place, clutching the towel at his waist. Something cold stirred uncomfortably in his stomach. The project. He had completely forgotten about the agency project, and it had been more than 2 weeks. The deadline was very close. He started for the phone, but Hope just waved her hand lazily.
大丈夫、私が取るよ。
What did you tell them?
主人は食べもせず、眠りもしないで、仕事を頑張ってるので、必ず結果を出しますって。
Dang, you are making it sound like I'm working hard over here for that project. It sucks that that's not the project I'm working on.
そうでしょ？
I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. Just don't pick up my phone again, okay? Hope
わ
shrugged.
かったわ。
That
そも
sounds
そも
sus.
電話に出るように頼んだのはあなたでしょ？
Yes, I know. When I just started working for them, it was important to let them see I am always in touch. Now that I've passed the probation period, there's no point in piling this on you any longer. Thank you for covering for me.
大丈夫よ。また電話取るわ。応援したいからね。
Aw, thanks. She's too nice for him. No, you really shouldn't. This project is complicated. I'd rather deal with it myself. Ethan sat rigid. He never considered himself a good liar, but Hope didn't seem to notice anything. She sighed, pretending to be upset, and rolled her
つ
eyes.
まり、今私は何の表彰も保証もなしに、ただ働きの秘書官を解雇されつつあるってことね。
True. I did just fire you. You're relieved of your services, my lady.
資本主義って本当に最悪だわ。
Capitalism sucks. On God. Ethan leaned over, tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear, and looked into her eyes. His hand remained on Hope's cheek. Your help is very important to me. Hope's hands went over his. She closed her eyes.
わかってるわ。
I couldn't have done it without you.
それで
They kissed. When Hope pulled away, she looked pleased, a sly smile on her lips. Are we still going to the store?
どうかしら？
They reached for each other again, but the phone gave a shrill ring. After the phone call this morning, Ethan turned the silent mode off. Oh well. My city needs me. Ethan briefly pressed his lips to her forehead. Hope sighed and slapped his ass.
まるで神様が私たちにズッキーニを買いなさいと言ってるみたいね。
True. I love zucchini.
待って、着替えてくる。
Okay, so we are still going out. Lovely. The call was from the agency. They needed more details and dates. Ethan went out into the hallway and tried to make it sound as plausible as he could. Yes, he understands that the deadline is very close. No, there were no serious hitches in the work. Yes, he will send everything on time. When the call finally ended, Ethan's neck and face were flushed by the time. He was a lousy liar after all. Ethan had to catch his breath. When he returned to the room, Hope was reaching for his laptop. What are you doing? Hope glanced at him over her shoulder. This time she looked surprised.
クーポンをプリントしようかなって思って。
Yeah, she just wants some discount coupons, bro.
どうしたの？
Ethan left a bunch of files and tabs open. They had nothing to do with the agency project, and he didn't want Hope to see them. After all, she did know enough about his projects to serve as a sort of secretary. About all the projects, except the one Ethan shouldn't have been taken because it wasn't paid for. Maybe his fears were irrational. Maybe Hope wouldn't blame him. But Ethan felt ashamed, and he didn't want to take any chances after what had happened this morning. I have lots of unsaved files in there. Some important information might get lost. Can I print the coupons myself? Ethan felt the heat rise again in his neck and cheeks. Hope stared at him for a few seconds. Ethan couldn't read the expression on her face, and that creeped him out. He was ready to hear the reproaches, even agreed with them in his mind, but Hope simply walked away.
わかったわ。
Hmm.
メールで送るね。
Cool. Feel bad. They spent most of the way to the store in tense silence. A few times Ethan asked something just to make sure Hope was still talking to him. Hope was, though the answers were dry and she never even attempted to make a joke. It's not that bad, Ethan told himself. It's not that bad at all. If you repeat it again and again, you can buy a little time, but in the end, the anxiety will prevail. It always does. Ethan's mind quickly figured out the owner was trying to trick it and spat out the chewing gum. At that moment, Ethan got caught in an avalanche of thoughts he didn't want to deal with and couldn't in his current state. Something had to be done, to be said, but what? Maybe he should actually do something after all. Ethan imagined touching Hope's fingers, and he immediately saw her pulling the hand back, her eyes glistening, how she opens her mouth to ask the question Ethan had no answer to. They'd have to talk, one way or another. Ethan didn't know where to start without burying himself even deeper. He had been thinking about it the whole way, but never came up with anything. The huge supermarket on the next block, a place they had long dubbed the store, was bustling with life despite the rather late hour. As soon as they entered the large glass doors, the tension began to come off on its own. I haven't said this yet, but I really like the artwork for this game. The carts were scarce, but he then got them one in exchange for a coupon. Hope gave him a thumbs up with not bad at all expression on her face. Hope enthusiastically presented a huge, colorful, utterly ludicrous mug, and Ethan immediately agreed they had to buy it. They tried to find a pair for the mug, but a brooding supermarket employee said it was the last one. They were a little disappointed, but well, at least that was something. Looking for the mug was the thing that finally did the trick. Now they were huddled together, looking for their favorite treats and arguing about which breakfast cereals are the best. That's how it was until they reached the meat department. I'll go pick something out before it's all cleared. Hope nodded absently. She was stuck at one of the big fridges in the middle of the hall.
いいわよ。ここで待ってるね。
Sounds good. Wonder what she's standing in front of. The meat shelves were half empty as usual at this hour. Ethan was hoping to find steak or some minced meat. However, he soon forgot about both. Cat girl? There was a girl standing by one of the shelves. Ethan couldn't see her face, only her pale back under a white dress with thin straps, and also her disheveled dark hair. Ethan's cheek was stung with cold, as if his face was lying on the shelf in one of those refrigerated display cases. Just between the pork ribs and a lone ribeye in a black polystyrene foam tray. Is that her? Ethan took a few uncertain steps forward. Then he backed away, almost knocking over a nice old lady. He couldn't even muster an apology, grabbed the first thing that came to hand, and turned around the nearest row of shelves. He tried not to run, because it would have looked too stupid. Ethan explained to himself as he reached the end of the row and peered around the corner. The girl was still picking out meat. Isn't what you're doing now stupid too? For sure it is, Ethan agreed with himself. The cold no longer burned his cheek, and the girl seemed quite ordinary, except she was dressed too lightly for the current weather. But that was still not considered a crime in any of the states. Ethan smiled to his own thoughts. Generally speaking, the girl was rather attractive, and her light clothing allowed one to fully appreciate it. Her thin waist passing into a seductive curve of her hips, and beneath the folds of white fabric one could make out her rounded buttocks.
さあ、
Then. What?
ブロッコリーか芽キャベツってお願いしたんだけ
Broccoli
ど。
or Brussels sprouts? Personally, I would go with broccoli. Me personally. Hope stood still with two colorful plastic bags in her hands, looking at Ethan questioningly. He blinked several times, squinting as if he had just stepped out into the bright light from a darkened room. When did Hope get back? Why was he holding a bottle of 1,000 Island dressing? I don't know. He was a little dizzy.
大丈夫？
Yeah, never mind. I'm sorry, I was just lost in thought. Hope tried not to look in the direction Ethan had been focusing on for so long. She really tried, but sometimes trying isn't enough, no matter how much effort you put in. At that very moment, the dark-haired girl's light white dress was floating away from the meat shelves. She must have finally made her choice.
そっか。
For a moment, Ethan thought both colorful plastic bags were about to slap him in the face. But Hope just smiled and tossed the bags into the cart. Ethan heard them crunch loudly as they hit the
両
bottom.
方買いましょうか。 いろいろあった方が人生楽しいわ。
I feel bad for Hope, honestly. I feel like Ethan's kind of a douche with his work. They haven't bought any zucchini. That night, he had another dream about the White Room. The walls were still trembling softly in the cold light. Everything in the room, including the air, was oozing tension, anguishing in anticipation of what was about to happen. And something was really about to happen, no doubt about it. Ethan suddenly realized he was looking at the room from an odd angle. He seemed to be standing on something, but he couldn't feel anything under his feet, no support. He tried to look down, but only saw the shimmering air. He had no legs and nothing above the missing legs, as if he was not there. Or rather, he was. The shimmering air, the chipped ceiling, and the walls, they were still trembling. He was the red sofa, standing a little away from the center, and a couple of unremarkable white doors on opposite walls of the room that were not there the last time. And that should not have been there. Nothing can be done about it now. The doors have appeared, and there's nothing that can be done about it now. What is this dream about a red sofa? I don't really understand. The light grew dim, now pulsating noticeably. It was still emanating from the room in its entirety, reflecting from the white walls, but most of all, from the twin brawl on the wall between two doors that were not supposed to be. For some reason, Ethan tried to catch the rhythm of the light with his breath, yet he couldn't. There were two figures sitting on the sofa. One fair, the other dark. The dark one came into the room through one of the doors, but Ethan couldn't guess which one. The fair one was Hope. Okay. Hope, what are you doing here? You can't be here. You have to leave right now, or something will happen. The pulse of light became faster. The dark one moved towards Hope and tucked a blonde strand behind her ear. Everything was happening very slowly, as if underwater. There was something odd about the dark one. Something about her was wrong, but Ethan couldn't guess what. She leaned towards Hope's ear and covered her mouth with her hand, and Hope leaned towards her and listened, very carefully, as if they had a mutual secret among themselves. Something was about to happen. They both looked at Ethan, even though Ethan wasn't here, or rather, he was nowhere because no white room ever existed. Then one of them smiled. The dark one's fingers slid down Hope's chin, a soft, rounded line. They were no longer looking at Ethan, only at each other, very closely, and were slowly inhaling the light. Huh? Wait, they're kissing? The dark one stroked Hope's cheek. There was no light left between their ajar lips as they collided. Ethan saw drops of saliva glistening on their lips. The dark one licked her lips and raised her tongue to make space for a long, black snake as it got out of her mouth. The snake swayed, tasted the air with its own tongue, and reached out to Hope. Hope closed her eyes. Now that snake was stroking her cheek, long and black, over and over again, in a spiral, always in a spiral. Hope reached for the band that covered her eyes and the dark girl reached for the hand, and their fingers intertwined and the light between their lips melted, as it always happens at sunset. Yet there was no snake, it was just a black ribbon, a poisonous ribbon covered in scales. The pulse of the room became faster. One of the lamps came into an eclipse. She has a number of faces, that's a clue. The bodies of two girls merged on the red sofa, and his own flesh was shaking and shrieking. Ligaments, valves, bones, vessels in places where they came very close to the shabby red upholstery. His heart rate became faster. 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 And then something happened. Ethan woke up. His breath was bubbling in his throat. The ceiling above him was flaring with immeasurable darkness, and down below his stomach he felt a searing heat. The heat was so intense, Ethan had to sneak into the bathroom, and as his old man used to say, he had to squeeze it off. And not just once, but whopping two. After that, Ethan loomed over the sink and was looking at himself in a small rectangular mirror for quite a while. At some point, his lips started trembling. Ethan did not wait to see where this was going. He spat into the sink, let the water in for a while, then he turned the lights off. I'm very lost right now. I wonder what this is all leading to. It's a very intriguing story, though. Something changed? What does that mean? Ethan didn't want morning to come. He didn't want to wake up, to see a hidden grudge in Hope's eyes, to listen to the awkward silence, and to seize every opportunity to say a word to break it. But morning did come, and Ethan was in for a surprise. Everything was fine. Very much so. Hope got up early to make a superior breakfast, the kind Ethan was never able to cook, even when he really wanted to. She was talking to him. She was joking. She listed at least 10 places they would go when their schedules became more relaxed. The nightmare seemed to be over, simply washed away down the drain with the rest of all things excess he used to have in his body. The image was so real that Ethan got completely relaxed, let his guard down, dazed by the cute nonsense, waffles with cream and delicious Turkish coffee. Then Hope asked a question.
もう少し黒い髪色って私似合うかな?
I think a darker hair color would suit me. The coffee suddenly turned solid and stuck in his throat. Ethan felt as if it wasn't coffee at all, but finely ground glass. He coughed. What? Hope put her elbows on the table and sipped from her cup as if nothing had happened.
ほとんど黒髪に近い。かなり暗めの色にしたいなって思う。
This was because I was staring at the cat lady, right? And she saw that she has dark hair, so she's thinking that's what I'm into.
どう思う?
I don't know. I'm fine with everything as it is. As long as you like it, I guess. Tiny pieces of glass were still scratching him from the inside. Ethan tried to clear his throat, but it didn't get much better. But why? Were you thinking about it? Ethan struggled to speak. He felt as if he was falling into a pit and the air was whistling in his ears.
だってイメチェンは大事じゃない?
That is true. Change is good.
そう思わない?
Exactly, that's exactly what I was saying. She took another sip.
それに家中に黒髪が落ちてるのよ.
Oh. Does she think I'm cheating on her?
そん
With
な
that
に
woman?
長くないけど、そんなに短くもなくて、このぐらいかな。
Even before Hope tapped her neck with the edge of her hand, Ethan knew where the hand would stop.
だから私が黒髪にしたら、その髪が他の女の髪なんかじゃなくて、私の髪だったって。
She actually thinks I'm cheating on her. Oh yeah, and I guess by something changed, it's the TV program thing. So, hold on. Sorry, pause on the story. We're gonna see what the TV program thing is. How to make the tomato soup. At some point, they had to remove her fingernail, an accident at the factory. She got lost. It is illegal, but it's painful still. Devil comes from the little cracks they don't tell you at school. Was that a new thing on the TV? I can't tell. No time to cook? Oh, this is new. We've got an answer on the shelf. Tomato soup. Why is his face extended like that? Made with fresh tomatoes and I wish you'd never been born. Wow. Okay, commercial break, cooking show, talk show maintenance. Cool. Okay. Interesting. Okay, back. Something changed? October 8th. I got an F for the essay. Mom will be mad. The bus driver said it was good and I should keep writing. He's nice, but I'd rather have a B anyway. Hope Mom isn't too. April 24th. Nobody came to my birthday party except for my friends and Timo. Mom said I'll get real friends when I'm older. My friends are real, but still, I'd love to have someone to hang out with. I'll just have to wait for a bit, I guess. February 13th. An awful day. I was crazy scared for Mom. She says she'll have some days off and we'll be watching movies and eating waffles. I love that, but she looks very sad. I don't know what to do. January 11th. The new school is okay. I wish I could make friends with someone, though. Mom is working late again. It's fine. I've lifted a very heavy box when we moved in. Mom couldn't pick it up by herself. I'm a big boy now, and big boys aren't afraid of anything. I'll just turn on the lights and watch TV with Timo and my friends. Only the cool stuff with animals or robots or aliens, but not the creepy kind. Also, so I thought, if I go brunette, yeah, okay. So, have I been missing these the whole time? Hope's lips stretched and the corners of her mouth turned up. But she wasn't smiling. This isn't happening. This just can't be happening. He must still be asleep. This is a dream, just a shitty dream, and it will end. Now Ethan desperately wanted morning to come, but morning just couldn't come for the second time in a day. Hope leaned back in her chair and looked at him with her head on one side, a fake smile smoldering on her lips. Something had to be done about it, all of it, right this moment. Come up with an explanation, try to explain the truth. Pretty sure if I try to explain the truth, it's gonna be bad. But this whole time I've been trying to be truthful, so. Look, something strange is going on. She could tell as much, huh? Hope, I'm serious. Something strange is going on and I have no explanations. Neither good nor bad, none at all. Oh, okay, what's your idea on this? Wait, I'm not saying that yesterday in the store, Ethan stopped short. Oh, she wants me to go on, oh no. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. I'm not saying I didn't stare at that girl. I did, and it's obvious. I was trying to. She reminds me of someone, and I was trying to figure out if I was mistaken. I know what it looks like, and it's my fault. Ethan decided to omit the part about well-rounded buttocks under the light-flowing fabric. Not because he wanted to look better, but because he knew it would hurt Hope, and he really didn't want to hurt her. Please forgive me if you can. I did a shitty thing, but I'm really sorry. He puts his hand on the table so that their fingers touched a little. Hope didn't move away. Next time we go shopping, you can stare at everyone you like. I'll try my best not to cry. Can't promise anything, though. Hope winced, but Ethan knew she was hiding a smile. That doesn't explain the hairs in the house, though. She's gonna pick the hottest ones. I don't stand a chance, do I? She smiled wider and ruffled his hair. And about the hairs, Hope's smile disappeared without a trace. I don't know where they came from. Seriously, there's something wrong here. She thinks I'm lying? No, listen, please. I really think that some intruder is getting inside our apartment somehow. Do you believe me? Hope looked at him for a while. Then she shivered. I wonder if she's saying yes because she actually believes me or because she just wants to believe me so she doesn't feel any pain. I feel so bad for her, honestly. I don't understand how this happens or what they want, but I think it's time to call the police and let them sort it out. It's their job after all.
多分まずはローラに電話した方がいいかも。
Call Laura? The therapist? Yes, I'll do that as well. Hope pressed his
じゃ
hand.
あ二人とも狂わせないように約束しよう。
I'm pretty sure your boy Ethan here is already crazy.
私も変なものを見たのよ。
She's also seeing things?
たくさんね。
What do you mean by all sorts of things?
髪のことだけじゃなくて、いろんなことを聞き始めたの。
I see.
どうにかして二人でこの問題を乗り越えましょう。
The way to get through this is together, Hope.
なんとかなるわよ。
True.
絶対。
Ethan nodded. Yeah. Hope pressed his hand again and got up from the table.
じゃあもう行くわね。
Okay, have a good day.
遅刻したら怒られちゃう。
Okay. Should I meet you after? Cool.
また電話するね。
Okay. Hope. I love you.
私も大好き。
Very much.
ちゃんとローラに電話してね。
Okay, so I need to call Laura. Ethan nodded absently. When the door shut behind Hope, Ethan called Laura. Hope found Laura a long time ago. Seemed like Laura helped her a lot. At least that's what Hope herself said. Ethan didn't know any details nor wanted to, since Hope hadn't told him. After all, psychotherapy is a very personal matter. So personal that Ethan felt as if he were standing naked in the middle of a busy street when he had to describe what was happening to him. Apparently, one can get used to this too, as by the middle of the story he was sparing no details. To Ethan's surprise, when he mentioned the disturbing emails from this contact that were kind of getting on his nerves, Laura perked up. You're saying you have recently become quite close to your acquaintance. I know it's a girl, but like, you emphasized and tried to help him, right? Well, yes, something like that. And your contact's letters contain vivid, disturbing imagery, yes? Imagery that evoked a certain response from you, is that right? You could say that. He's a writer after all. Vivid images are his livelihood. Whoa. Do you know what induced delusional disorder is, Mr. Harrison? Ethan tried to recall. He definitely read about it, but didn't look into much detail. Is that the thing that explains mass insanity? Like that dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg? That's right. This disorder is also called folie à deux. Or deux? I don't know. Is that French? Folie à deux, or madness for two. Sounds romantic, doesn't it? Laura giggled. Ethan thought she herself was not all too insane. Of course she wasn't. She has to deal with the guys like me all the time. But Laura had already returned to her usual tone, calm and measured. This condition causes perfectly healthy people to experience various, let's say, negative effects. It works like this. We have a source of delirium, and those who perceive it, one or more people. As you correctly noted, sometimes this disorder can take on a truly massive scale. There is usually an emotional connection between the victims of this condition. Your wife is also at risk, unfortunately. Laura paused. I can't make a diagnosis in such a format, Mr. Harrison. However, I think you need to limit contact with your acquaintance, at least for the time being. He might be the source of the unpleasant state you are experiencing. Would you like to make an appointment for a consultation? Ethan politely declined. Oh, no consultation, huh? Laura listened to the rest of what he had to say. She asked what pills Ethan was taking. Ethan wasn't taking any except aspirin because he had lots of headaches lately. She advised him to reduce the workload, follow the daily routine, and take some light sedatives if necessary. Something herbal, maybe. Without meeting in person, there wasn't much Laura could offer, and Ethan had no energy, time, or money to start the full-on therapy, as Hope called it. Okay. Ethan thanked Laura with all his heart, finished the call, stretched, and took a deep breath that made his ribs ache. Then he smiled. Though no full-on therapy was involved, this conversation still made Ethan feel much better. The reality made sense again, and nothing out of the ordinary was happening. Nothing he couldn't handle. He stretched again and was about to go for another cup of coffee when his breath, the steady, deep breath of a man who's in control, caught in his throat. Ethan felt the small hairs on his neck standing up. Someone was looking at the back of his head. Ethan turned around slowly. Is she actually going to be here this time? I'm calling the police. Ethan spoke each word loud and clear. It was a decent plan, an actual decent one, and it certainly wasn't funny in any way. And yet, the girl sitting on the windowsill was silently laughing, covering white teeth with her hand. The girl from the supermarket. The girl from the dream. Her eyes are red though. She was still wearing a light white dress, even though in the morning the temperature dropped to 53 degrees Fahrenheit and it was going to rain. One of the straps fell down to the side, but the girl was in no hurry to put it back. She swung her crossed leg a little, looking at Ethan from under her brow, with the smile of a child who had a hilarious mischief in mind. Did I say something funny? The girl quickly raised her eyes and shrugged slightly, still holding back the smile. Just as before, she did not make a sound. Ethan even assumed she could be mute, but decided to make one last attempt. Just one question, and then he calls the cops. Okay, let's save. Who are you? Or how did you get? I'm saying who are you? The girl's eyes became round, and her face turned into a surprised grimace. Overly surprised. Ethan immediately remembered the time when he and Hope came across a couple of street mimes. She poked her thin finger into her chest, which made her tense nipples show up for a second, under the thin fabric of her dress. You're what I'm looking for? What does that mean? She spoke slowly, stretching out her vowels and with some kind of delight. A moment later, the girl reached for something behind her back, quickly pulled it to her lips, and took a sip. Ethan's throat became tight with blood that abruptly rushed to his head. How did you get this? The girl traced Ethan's gesture with a genuinely surprised look, and the next moment she parted her fingers. Hope's huge, colorful cup, the one they just got at the store, tinkled hurtfully as it struck the floor and then shattered to pieces. Just like that, there was a brief moment when the cup was lying peacefully on the floor. Ethan got enough time to hope it would endure the fall. And then the fragments burst everywhere at once, as the furious white light broke out from the inside. But no, that was milk. Just some milk. I spooked you? You're in my house. She broke it on purpose. Ethan was suffocating. What the hell are you doing here? What do you want from me? The girl bit her lip and twisted a fallen shoulder strap between fingers. The top of the dress slid even lower. What the fuck? She trying to blackmail me right now? Wait, how does she know that? Wow. The girl looked over her shoulder and her face instantly lit up. Oh shit. Hope's here? What the fuck? No way. The girl turned over on her stomach, leaned on the sill, and waved vigorously to someone invisible. Her dress completely slid down. That bitch, Ethan would bet her tits are flashing right through the window. Save. I'm not gonna grab her, because I bet if I grab her, I'm gonna get caught holding her. Don't come any closer. She's crying. Ethan couldn't see it, but he knew. He felt that Hope was really standing down there, and she was looking at the window, of course, although she couldn't see much anymore as a blurry veil covered her eyes. The girl slowly turned around and stared at him, with her eyes wide open without blinking. Her shoulders shook as if she was going to cry, but she was laughing. Should I have grabbed her? At first, it was a couple of stifled laughs. Then it became a laughter of someone who just heard a great joke, and gradually turned into the wild barking screams. He has to stop it. Right now. Ethan wanted to rush to the window, but took just one step and froze in place. The girl must be out of her mind. She's stoned or worse. She might have a syringe, and he doesn't want any more problems. He only wants this thing removed from his windowsill, welded in a steel box and dumped somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. He still had his phone in his hand. Oh, what the fuck? 911, what's the address of your emergency? The bitch shrank, hunched, but kept cackling like a pack of coyotes yelping on a moonlit night. She was writhing with laughter, and the pale rags of dry, flabby skin were shaking in the rhythm of her movement, her dress looking like a death shroud. He suddenly thought she was much older than he thought at first. What's going on? Ethan looked at her for the last time, a mixture of hate and disgust in his eyes, and turned away, running his fingers through his hair. There's a stranger in my apartment. A woman, most likely on drugs or just insane. Can you see her right now? Ethan could see only the wall in front of him, but he heard a deafening howl. It was echoing throughout his skull, beating into his temporal bones like a desperate bird. Ethan clenched his teeth. Yes. Does she have a weapon? Maybe. She threatened me. Can you leave the apartment? No. This scum can escape, and I don't want her to get... Ethan hesitated. I can't hear you, sir. What is happening? Speak up. I can't hear you. What is happening? The terrifying laughter kept echoing in Ethan's ears. There was no one behind him. Did I pass out? He approached the window slowly, as if it was happening in a dream. The shards of Hope's cup crunched under his feet. Just like before, the window was closed. Ethan opened it and carefully looked down. He did not see the body. Too good to be true, but he had to check. Only the gray pavement, which gradually turned black as it actually started raining. Ethan looked across the street just in time to notice the familiar cream-colored coat disappearing behind the corner of the nearby house. I feel so bad for her. Hope! My voice, I'm sorry, my throat hurt, guys. Hope! Hope! Dude, oh my god, that's so embarrassing. Let's try it one more time. Hope! Hope! That's better. He screamed so loud that something snapped in his throat, but she didn't hear him. Or maybe she didn't want to hear. No, I feel so bad for her. Ethan called her at least 100 times. Hope didn't answer. Ethan thought he could come to her office, but eventually decided it would only make things worse. The police were in his apartment 23 minutes, 40 seconds later. They didn't find any signs of forced entry, and the call record, as Ethan found out later, had nothing that resembled laughter or howling. No extraneous sounds, as the officer said. Poor Hope. But she clearly saw, though, right? That woman had her titties out, hanging out the window, basically. Hope returned sometime between late at night and early in the morning. The skin on her cheekbones were taut and almost transparent, and there were deep shadows under her eyes, as if she hadn't slept in a long time. She smelled of strong alcohol. Ethan went out of the dark room to her. He didn't sleep and didn't turn on the light either. Things that lurked in the dark, real or imagined, no longer frightened him. He even wished that something he had been dreading for the past months, he finally could name the feeling he had, would come out of the greasy blackness of the shadows and snap his neck. But everything in the apartment was mockingly calm, except for Ethan himself. Hope? Hope stared at him in silence, swaying a little. Instead of pupils, she had dark holes. I've been thinking a lot about what I would say to you if you came back. What I can say. Hope's face showed no emotion. It seemed like she didn't even blink. Anyway, I realized that I can only tell the truth no matter how crazy it sounds. If I try to cheat, it only gets worse, right? Ethan gave a short, nervous laugh. Anyway, Ethan had plenty of time to think about what he was going to say, but he still didn't know where to start. Some time ago, I don't remember exactly, I started seeing a girl. Wait, is he actually going crazy because he's cheated on her? And, like, that fucked him up mentally because he's been lying about it? No way. Who is she, Ethan? I don't know. Is it Sophie? Who? Who's Sophie Wolf? Or but when he said I've been seeing a girl, does that mean like he's like just mentally been like seeing this girl? There's no way he cheated on her, right? Your student from the online course. Hope made a vague gesture with her hand. Movies from the late Victorian era. Ethan didn't know why he said that, but Hope obediently repeated it in flat voice. Am I saying she's not smart? There's no way he was actually. I feel bad for her. I feel so bad for her. Hope, this isn't what you think. No, okay, see, he didn't cheat on her. Okay, never mind. Oh. Wait, hold on. Ethan disappeared into the room and came back a few minutes later. The darkness of the hallways diluted by the light of the screen. Hope covered her eyes with her hand, either from the brightness of the screen itself or because she didn't want to see whatever there was. I'll show you what it's about. Here, look. It's Sophie Wolf. On the screen, in fact, was the profile of Sophie Wolf, his student. On the photo, Sophie was squinting either from the bright sun or because her curly red hair was getting in her eyes. A small brown-haired girl snuggled up to her with a shy smile. They're a nice couple. If I remember right, they had a wedding this year. And who is... I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I just want her out of my life, but this bitch follows me. Well, she used to follow, but now I don't think I'll ever see her again. Is it good or bad? What does she mean by that? Hope, please. If you want to leave, I'll understand. But if you're willing to give me a chance, I promise I'll do my best to mend it all. He couldn't really promise, but he was too eager for the nightmare, real or imagined, to finally end. No more weird stories. Please, Hope. I don't need anyone but you. If you can get... He couldn't finish because Hope kissed him. Her bag hit the floor with a thud. The rest of the night actually went fine. Well, even more than that, except for the fact they were too busy to get any sleep. Holy shit. At least everything was going okay until the moment when, instead of Hope's face, just for a moment, Ethan saw. He couldn't tell her. He mumbled something about not feeling well and collapsed on his back, panting. He closed his eyes so that Hope wouldn't accidentally catch a glimpse of what he saw. Nothing happened. It wasn't real. It's fine, she understands, said Hope. Something changed. Okay, let's go to the TV program, because I've been missing out on this stuff. I remember her face. Where's Timo? Let's look for him together. Maybe he's up the tree chasing the birds. No, I can't see him. Maybe he's in the reeds watching the fish. No and no. Let's look some more. I'm tripping balls right now, looking at this TV. Maybe he's on the roadside under the blue plastic bag. Oh, he's not there. 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 He's not. Oh, I knew it. He is there. He's not 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 there. He's not. He. See, this is the writer portion of it, though. So, like, is my guy writing a story at the same time? The conditions of love. What have you done? I wanted to save you. I wanted to save us both. You fool. That's right. But I just can't lose you. It is too late. It's never too late as long as we have each other. Oh, Elijah. The conditions of love. Two? Rerun. Did I watch that? I assume... Wait, that's what I just looked at, right? Yeah. Cool. What was this? Something changed, yeah. September 15th. The bus driver saw me. He didn't laugh at me, and I didn't get mad like Mom. He even allowed me to play in the bus. I wish there was more people like him. June 11th. I had a really weird dream today. Hope is okay. I'll go and look for him. I should have closed the darn window. Okay. The concave muzzle of Persian cat stared back at him. All that was required Ethan. He had to call the cattery. A simple task, but Ethan hesitated. It was hard for him to get used to the idea of one of those pop-eyed creatures walking around their apartment. During the day, it will nap where it pleases, and at night sneak into the kitchen to play with the shadows that move by themselves. And its eyes will turn into two saucers of black and green nacre if the light reaches them. Ancient people believe cats would walk between worlds and see spirits. Looking at Persians, Ethan hardly believed they could even breathe on their own. And yet, this Ethan Harrison from the 21st century agreed with the ancient people. There was something sinister about them. In any case, he should call the cattery. For Hope's sake. For the sake of them both, since he had made the decision. Ethan had already picked up the phone and was about to proceed with the plan when he heard the key turn in the entrance door. Something about that wound him up. It was barely 5 o'clock in the evening, which was, in any way, very early for Hope to get back. If everything was fine, that is. Ethan closed his laptop and went out into the hallway. For a long time, he couldn't say a single word, and when he could speak again, he only managed one question. What have you done? Hope's smile faded, and for the first time in the 4.5 or even 5 years they'd been a couple, Ethan was glad of it. In fact, there was nothing surprising about it. As with the new haircut and the new hair color, Hope looked unbearably, insanely similar to the creature at the window. Hope's lips turned white, trembling. I feel so bad for her. Hope, it's not like that. I swear, baby girl. What are you talking about? Is what obvious? Dude, you're gonna freak him out, bro. He's gonna kill you. Why would he be disgusted? I'm sorry, Hope. Ethan's an asshole. Admit it, you never loved her? Oh, the other girl? Oh God. Oh, what's happening? Oh, this doesn't look like it's gonna... Ethan would never hit his wife. More than that, he would never hit a woman. But what spoke to him was neither his wife nor a woman. It was a nightmare incarnate that bared its long, sharp teeth and came to take away his right for a second chance. Or so Ethan thought at the time. The punch turned out somewhat pathetic. But you have to take into account that wife beating is not a fair ground attraction. When you hit your wife properly, a mark does not fly up to the highlighted sign, a good one. Although this was only indirectly related to the early Renaissance, Ethan had expertise in the matter, since his old man's fist used to itch often. If there was something like that, he would know. However, if any sign could light up at the moment, it would say something like, "You're scum, Ethan." No! He kept repeating that even after Hope stormed out the door in tears. Wow. Huh. Honestly, I thought this story was going to be more about the writer, but it's not. It's about him. Ethan barely remembered the following few days. Something seemed to be happening. Some people called him. He himself called a lot. He called Hope. Hope wasn't answering the phone. He knew this would happen. Every time he dialed her number, he knew he'll end up listening to the voicemail. It became something of a ritual. He would wake up. Sometimes it was light outside, sometimes dark, but more often it was something gray he neither could nor would want to identify because of the drawn curtains. He called Hope. Hope wouldn't answer the phone. He would go to the kitchen and turn the water on. He'd watch the silvery, twisted stream break against the sink for a while. Eventually, he put a cup under the stream, fill it to the brim, drink. Go to the bathroom, back to the couch. It's too bad to be true. All of this can't be real. Life can't crumble into pieces in an instant, just collapse inwards like a wooden block tower. Ethan couldn't remember the name of that game. Once he and Hope went to see. He and Hope. It's too bad. All of this can't be real. He didn't do anything. Could it be that he didn't do anything? No. He hit Hope. He hit her, and a red blot spread across her cheek. It was too dark to see, but Ethan knew how it goes. How could he do that? What happens now? What can happen now? These thoughts were like a bunch of needles he tried to swallow over and over. Sometimes he managed to briefly forget about them. It would happen when he woke up in the gray timelessness, looked at the dirty white ceiling, and didn't remember who that Ethan Harrison was. But the pain would always come back. He had a bunch of needles in his throat, and no matter how much water he drank, he couldn't get rid of it. That's like my throat right now. My throat hurts. Hope's father shook him up a bit. Not in a sense he could have done it, grabbing a hold of him, lifting off the ground. Hope's father was a tough man, and despite his age, he could have hit Ethan hard. Ethan was afraid of it, and at the same time, he wanted it to happen. That would have made everything easier, maybe even fixed it all. Ethan was going over it in his head as he stared at the phone screen, displaying a familiar number. He was awfully scared, yet he answered. It turned out Hope had asked her father to pack up for her. Mr. Mirrorless' voice was flat, maybe even a bit uncertain, and worst of all, he wasn't angry. Things plunged Ethan into despair. He couldn't get his redemption like this. However, the upcoming visit forced Ethan to gain his senses. It shoved him back into reality, like a stream of people rushing one into a crowded subway train. He tidied up the place a bit. He shaved. He figured out what to say. Several times he rehearsed his speech in front of the mirror. And just before Mr. Mirrorless arrived, Ethan left the keys with the neighbors. Simply put, he fled. Of course, he warned Mr. Mirrorless beforehand with a message because he didn't have the heart to call. Ethan wanted Mr. Mirrorless to pick up what he had to and get out as soon as possible. Mr. Mirrorless wasn't going to help, that's for sure. He wasn't going to help, which meant he simply got between Ethan and his wife. Ethan was angry with Mr. Mirrorless, like he was the source of all the trouble. Anger was boiling up inside him, mixing with cheap coffee and turning into caustic acid. There was nothing rational about this feeling. Ethan had plenty of time to think about it, to weigh it, to examine it under a magnifying glass. He was sitting in a small cafe on the corner of the street until the streets got dark. He would have stayed there even longer if a waiter hadn't come to his table to tell him the place was closing. Ethan nodded absently and asked for a moment to use the bathroom. Again, there was nothing rational about being angry with Mr. Mirrorless. And to be honest, it was pathetic. Just like hitting your wife and then running away not to face her father. You're scum, Ethan. Worthless scum. Ethan turned off the tap and stared at his reflection in a large mirror. A few drops of water trembled on the tip of his nose and chin. Now that was a proper punch. Sir, I'm sorry, but Sir? Are you okay? You have... Blood oozed from his split lip. Ethan wiped it off with the back of his hand. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep you. He smiled. The fresh wound got swollen with blood again. A red blot spread across his face, just as it should. Ethan didn't lie to the waiter. Well, let's go to the TV program real quick. The Secrets of Anatomy. Example 1. Example 2. Wait, what? Example 3. Example 4. A ripe specimen. A tomato? The screaming man is hiding here. Ductus. Oh, the screaming man? Huh. I'm very confused about these TV program things. Happy Dreamland. Mary is a lamb. Johnny is a tree. And who's a little liar? Did that say it backwards? Mary's a lamb, Johnny is a tree, and who's a little Elijah? Elijah? Does that say Elijah? Interesting. Ethan didn't lie to the waiter. He really was fine. Maybe not in the same manner as before, but the gears in his head were starting to move again. When he got home, Mr. Merlis had already left. Turned out that he didn't even take the keys from the neighbors. At first, Ethan assumed Mr. Merlis could cancel the visit, but as soon as he opened the door, his doubts disappeared. A strong, unfamiliar scent was filling the hallway. It could be Mr. Merlis' cologne, or maybe the smell of the apartment itself, with Hope's presence faded away. Mr. Merlis must have taken his daughter's keys. Somehow the possibility never crossed Ethan's mind before. He drew the air in through his nostrils and suddenly felt as sharp and clear as in the dream he had days ago. Something was going to happen. Ethan looked around the empty, dark room and reached for the phone. Was it to perform the ritual, or was he hoping something would go different this time? Short beeps. Something appearing here? Ethan thought it was safe to say something was already happening. He only had to figure what and where. Something had changed in the picture, and it's not that Hope's favorite blouse is missing from the closet. If you find the difference, you win. If you find the difference, you'll know where the gears are taking you. The hallway. Wait, is that Hope in the mirror? And the pot-bellied bowls on the dresser full of gibberish and dust. That's Hope. Not crazy for seeing that, right? And there's shadows moving. The kitchen. An uneven row of glass jars on a shelf. An empty coffee maker bearing dry blackness at the bottom. Spoons, forks, and knives, some of them really sharp. The bathroom. A mirror on the wall, and in the reflection, the closed door is open. No, not here. What about... Ethan licked his split lip. Yes, that's it. He has to check his email now. Ethan was looking carefully. Seemed like a lot of time has passed. His mailbox was full of various emails, but Ethan barely glanced at the names. He was looking for something special, and what was special about says, letters from the agency that were gradually becoming more and more concerned. At some point, concerned turned into cold and aggressive. Ethan idly skimmed through the notice of contract termination. Not what he was looking for. He started with the oldest emails and scanned the list all the way to the top. Nothing. Maybe he's looking in the wrong place. Maybe there's just nothing to look for. No. Something is happening. He only has to figure what and where. Ethan got so close to the accurate answer to those questions that the light of the new knowledge could have burned out his eyes. Are we not going to talk about her reflection in the TV? At the top of the list was an untitled letter. Maybe Ethan missed it the first time, or maybe it just wasn't there before. The sender was the same writer Ethan had volunteered to help completely free of charge. Ethan's lungs turned into a deflated pool ball. He clicked on the name of the letter without a name. Of course, the letter actually had a name. Mail clients carefully added untitled to the empty line just in case you're losing it when you type your email because something got out of the open door in the bathroom mirror. Mail clients carefully add untitled to the empty line just in case you're losing it when you type your email because something got out of the open door in the bathroom mirror. The poor guy begged Ethan to come. The mail said he couldn't sleep. He was scared, exhausted, and didn't know who else to ask. Something will get him very soon, if he won't figure anything out. He didn't know if it was related to the work he was doing. He didn't know how to drive away what had settled in his house. He only knew that something enormously hungry was looking at him from the darkness. You know what I mean, right? Ethan knew. By the time he finished reading the letter, Ethan already knew what he should do. Based off the path I'm going, I might as well, answer the call. The acquaintance didn't know it, if it all had any relation to the work he was doing. But what about Ethan's work? Could his research shed light on what lay dormant in the dark and awaken it? Was it Ethan's avid curiosity or the question that teased its appetite? Which one was cursed, the chicken or the egg? Ethan was angry as hell. He wanted to end it, all of it, once and for all. He wanted to face his fear, even if the fear was no longer his own. Even if it was crawling through the wires and climbing communication towers to breathe out its noxious pores into the air. I like how those paintings are turning to eyes. I like being watched. Ethan was angry, but also terrified. What he wanted to think was a delusion took root and grew stronger as he tried to deceive himself. It was incorporeal as the email in his mailbox, yet at the same time as real. Ethan wanted to face the fear so that it would take a shape and a name, a box in which the fear could fit. Maybe then he could have dealt with it. That's why when Ethan got behind the wheel of his old sedan, he wasn't doing it for the rider who was tormented by shadows. He was doing it for himself. In the email, the acquaintance described in detail how to find his house and how to get inside. Too much detail, as if he had already resigned to his fate. Something would get to him very soon, and he won't figure anything out. This is just a notice, Mr. Harrison, a notice of life termination. This happens when you look into the abyss for too long. But looking isn't enough, is it? Am I gonna crash? You shine a flashlight into it, throw stones, and whistle frantically, like a vandal who managed to get into an abandoned house. You're excited and terrified, and then only terror remains as you realize the door has slammed shut behind you and the handle won't budge. This thought made Ethan speed up, and then just abruptly to hit the brakes. The wheels let out a short, hysterical shriek. The car swerved and stopped on the side of the road. The blood was pounding in his ears. Ethan's breath came in short gasps, his eyes searching blindly in the dark. After calming down a little, Ethan pretended. Who was he trying to fool? The night road was empty. He was examining his navigator, but there was one thought in his head. What is he doing? What the hell is he doing? Seems like he asked it out loud. There was no one to answer. It's not too late to turn back. Turn the car around, go back to the city, to the apartment, lie down on the sofa, and sleep until the morning comes. In the morning, he will call. Hope again, and the thought was cut short. Actually, it didn't lead anywhere from the very beginning. A dead end. The truth was, he had no place or reason to go back. He wanted to go back to the past, and that task was beyond him or his old Toyota. In the present, he had nothing left but the granite gray road ahead and the decision to go. If he hurried, he might still be able to help. car slowly took off. The rest of the way, and there wasn't much left, Ethan was thinking about his acquaintance. Or were they friends? Probably. You don't take acquaintances for a journey to the bottom of the abyss, do you? Ethan was thinking about his friend, how long he'd been awake in particular. It had been, Ethan glanced at the phone in the open glove box, quite a long time. A month or so, judging by the emails. He'd been awake for a whole month. How long can a person stay awake? The question followed his car silently. At least Ethan's sleeping, like, a lot. Ethan drove into the suburbs and turned the car around on Deputy Road. The 25 miles per hour speed limit road sign at the bend of the road seemed as white as an old bone. Ethan turned down Sycamore Street. The lawn in front of House 8 was overgrown with tall grass, so tall as if it hadn't been touched for... How long can a person stay awake? Ethan thought it was probably the rainy weather. He didn't remember much of the past week, but he was pretty sure about the rain. Even now, the ground was still damp and springy underfoot. Yes, it must be the rain. Humidity makes grass grow faster. When he got out of the car, a shadow detached from the trees near the house. Ethan stiffened, then eased a moment later. The figure quickly walked away along the narrow concrete path. Just a passerby. Ethan watched him go. The concrete beneath his boots gave way to gravel. Ethan walked past a sprawling hemlock covered with rosettes of small white flowers. The bush reached up to mid-thigh. All the windows were dim, no lights anywhere. The house stood a little way off, dark, quiet, and still as the night itself, almost like the house was slumbering along with its host. For a moment, Ethan felt stupid and was about to turn back to the car, but he stayed after all. He was invited. No, not that, he was called for help. Maybe he and his friend got a little too stressed, and that's all. Induced delusional disorder in all its glory. Maybe Ethan was desperate to be needed, so he jumped at the chance to be someone's savior. Perhaps his unfortunate friend had finally fallen asleep, and disturbing him was a bad decision overall. Well, Ethan was fine with that. He just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Ethan firmly knocked on the door. No one answered. Neither the first time nor the third. No lights came on in any of the rooms, and there was no sound behind the door. One of the windows on the second floor was open. Ethan moved away from the porch and tried to take a better look. No movement. The house was asleep, and its sleep resembled torpor. Ethan himself came to think he might be dreaming. But if two people share the same dream, is it any different from reality? Slowly, as if that really was a dream, Ethan went to the flower tub the letter had mentioned and took the spare key from the hiding place. Just as slowly, he returned to the door. The key rattled 3 times in the lock, and the door drifted inward into the darkness. Wonder how close we are to the end, actually. At the top of the stairs leading to the second floor, there sat a cat. Ethan tried to call out to it, but the cat didn't move, still watching him with bright, round eyes. Ethan plunged into the darkness of the house. The darkness and the stench, which were almost one and the same here. Okay, we're in his house now. The smell, unbearably thick, dense, wrapped the house in a suffocating shroud. Ethan tried not to think about where it was coming from. Instead, he thought of Selene, or rather, her dark counterpart, Hecate. The ancient Greeks believed that she appears in the form of a dog, but dogs were sacrificed to her, weren't they? Better turn the light on. It was really better to, but Ethan couldn't gather enough courage to do it. Dogs are the natural enemy of cats. Light is the natural enemy of darkness. Life is the natural enemy of death. And what wish could be more natural than a wish to destroy your natural enemy? Ethan stumbled over something. He looked down. Is it the guy? Oh, he's dead. A hand was peeking out from behind the kitchen counter, blackened and swollen. Of course, Ethan would have seen more if he had a flashlight. Somehow, Ethan wasn't surprised. As if it's him, not his friend, who had long ago resigned to his fate. You have received a notice of life termination. It suddenly dawned on him. Madness, curse, and death are contagious, and this is not a Dark Age superstition, but an actual law of reality. Selene, Hecate, Artemis, madness, curse, and death. Here lies the accurate answer as accurate as it gets. The answer has 3 faces, and he himself wished to look into each of them. Ding! A sound of glass breaking in the hall, but it wasn't a window collapsing. The light bulbs. Someone was smashing the light bulbs with a bat one by one. The sound was getting closer. Ethan closed his eyes. Good night. What was the question again? Ending 6 out of 6? This was the 6th ending out of the 6 endings. Okay, I'm getting achievements. Ghostwriter, Selene Apoptosis. Okay, something has changed. Let's look at the TV program real quick. Happy dreaming. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you lose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Huh. The Hans and Sam Show. What do you do when you feel lonely? I don't feel lonely. What do you do when you feel lonely? I don't feel lonely. What do you do when you feel lonely? Something bad happens if you ask me again. What do you do? Oh, told you. Oh. The Hans and Sam Show. Blue Lights Hotel. We welcome your stay for a moderate price. Wow, I'm missing a lot. I assume these are from the other, like going through the other endings. Because, hold on. Because I'm missing a lot for these. And then missing some on here. And then this one, I'm missing like all of them. Okay, so I can either go to the last choice or to the main menu. Yeah, so I guess I'll go to the main menu for now. Let's go back. Selene. I don't think there's... I don't know how I'm gonna do this for the next videos, because I do want to get all the endings. So I got the 6th ending. I guess I'll just backtrack. I don't know how, like, if I'm gonna do, like, full-length videos for each ending. Or I'll just cut out the bits I've already done and then proceed like that. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see, like, each ending played completely from the start to the end, or would you like it just cut short to where the choice actually determines the end. But yeah, that was Selene Apoptosis, I believe that's how you say it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. If you have any game suggestions, drop those in the comments down below, along with, like I said, if you want to see, like, the full length, like, endings, or if you just want me to cut it down and just get straight to the ending. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.